So I'm Kayleen, and I'll be doing the final presentation for Professor Roberts' class, Leadership and Literature, and it'll be about the following books that we'll see on the next slide I'll be talking about. So from the books that we read in this course, the ones that I chose to talk about was Othello, A Raisin in the Sun, and Oedipus Rex. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. Oedipus Rex. And so the first thing that we're gonna just talk about is what they have in common. So since all these books have a leader in them, and the whole course was about identifying different types of leadership skills, traits that people have, and that not all leaders are just this person that has like their life put together. They know how to they know how to do their job, and they don't have any flaws. And that's like, you could say, is the definition, or like when people like think about a leader, that's how they would perceive them, as someone that has their life put together, um and that's why they have the role as being leader. But as we read all these three books, and I give you a little summary about them, we will see how these leaders really went through it, and how their decision makings and their way of controlling things that were in their hands led them to success or ruins. So yeah, so some of the leadership traits that these books have in common is, as you can see, it says determination, ambition. They have imperfections, and because everybody's not perfect, but they also did have vision and purposes, just like any leaders would have, right? So in these books, like, each character demonstrates like a strong drive to achieve their goals or fulfill their like perceived roles, like I said. um for example, in Othello is determined to lead as a commander, like a very respected military commander. In Oedipus, he seeks to save his city, because he was his how do you say it, he's supposed to be king. He's supposed to be king. So as a king, you already have that role of being a leader to so many people, and there's so many people like looking up at you, and like you gotta behave. So yeah, he seeks to save his city, be that person that their city like could come to. But he wants to do this and uncover the truth about his past, because there's we all go through things, and he was definitely going through a lot. And so for Raisin in the Sun, we have Walter Lee, which is like the main character, you could say. And he just strives to improve like his family's, like, you could say, socioeconomical status, through like him just trying to like work, and just like, because they lived in poverty, so he just did his best to get his family out from like where they were at that time. So that was him being a leader, being the man of the household, you could say. Okay, so for other like leadership traits, we also have determination and ambition. So like each character in these books, they have like this drive, this motivation, this sense of purpose and vision. Like they have a goal that they want to complete. So in Othello, Othello's vision in the book was that he wanted to lead with honor. He wanted to be like this man that you could say dominates, but like people look up to and respect. That's what he was like going for, and he just wanted to like maintain his reputation as a leader that people could think that he's capable of protecting them. And in Oedipus, like, he just seeks to protect people, and like I said before, like, just to fulfill that role of people to look at him like a king, a fulfilled king, a king that could lead his people. um and he was also just like very much prioritizing like his people and the city that like he was taking care of, and their like well-being. um and in Raisin in the Sun, we have Walter Lee, and his drive was just like I said, like getting out the ghetto because they were poor. He just wanted to get out the ghetto. Like he was like, I'm tired of this shit. Like we gotta bounce. Like I gotta like make money. Get our shit together, because we're not gonna like, just because we're born into like this poverty and we're black, we're not gonna let that stereotype us or just like keep us in this like box. No, like I want to like go for more. I want to like, you know, feel like I could like live better than this, because I know there's so much more like to life than just like living paycheck to paycheck and being like downgraded because of our skin or from where like we live at. So yeah, he was very like driven to get his shit together, not just for him but for his family, and that's what showed his leadership skills and made him very like ambitious. And yeah, um, they were very like vulnerable as leaders. I would say that they all really showed vulnerability when it came to like decision makings, because like I said, they all went through a lot of things. um but they showed like how these decision makings took a turn on like how they are like emotionally, and how they would react to certain type of actions that would happen in their lives. All right, so now in the book of Othello, what went down with him was that he was a leader. He was like in, like I said, commander, like an army, something like that, right? He was very respected. But what happened was that Othello was an insecure man, you could say. He was a little insecure, and he let jealousy get the best of him, and that was his faith. So what happened was that As he was struggling with insecurities, he had this beautiful woman by his side. Her name was, what was it? Desdemona, right? Desdemona. We're just gonna call her Des. So he had this beautiful woman by his side, Des, right? The love of his life. He loved her, and Othello, as like a husband, he was the best to her. He was very loving, caring. He loved her, but he let a third party get in the way of that. Now this third party, you can say this third person that got in the way of all this, his name was Lago. Now Lago, his goal here was to like make Othello jealous and like ruin the relationship, you could say. Now what went down was, like, as I said, Othello, he's already like insecure, you know, a little bit jealous. So with this guy over here, Lago, you know, he would just make up a lot of things and would say so much things about Des, talking about that Des was being unfaithful to Othello with some dude that is like Othello's, you know, right hand man. His name is Cassius, and Lagos was just like, you know, he would be telling Othello like, yeah, like she's being unfaithful, like blah blah blah, like she's being like unloyal and shit, and he would just be feeding Othello so much shit about things that Des would be doing when it wasn't even like that, like. He just wanted to ruin this for him, and he was always showing like Othello like false evidence, like things that weren't actually true. And Othello like he was you know, feeding into it. Othello was actually believing everything that Lagos was telling him. He was like, oh, word, like this is actually going down, like what the hell. And all because Lagos planted this like seed of doubt in Othello. It led to Othello like raging, like he just felt this rage inside of him, like when it would like come to Des, like he didn't like love her anymore. Like he did love her, but he was like in so much disbelief that Des was being like unfaithful to him, and it just led him to like hate her. Like he loved her, but he hated her, and he let his emotions get the best of him. As a leader, he could have, you know, talked this out with her, like, you know, hey, this and this and this was being said, let's talk about it. But he didn't do that. He was not smart. He was like, he did not want to hear her side of the story. He was like, if this is what they're telling me, then you know what, we're gonna end this right now. And what did he end up doing? He ended up killing Des. He murdered his wife. He murdered his wife. Like I said, he let his emotions get the best of him, and it really ended in a tragic way. He ended up killing Des. And the right when he ended up, you know, murdering her is when Lagos's like whole treachery, like the whole scheme like went out, like it came out in the light. And when Othello, you know, heard about it, it left him, you know, he was spiraling. He was like, what the hell? Like I just killed my wife because like Lagos was just telling me like so much shit about her, and I come to find that none of this is true. Now we could, you know, envision how Othello was feeling at that time. Like, bro, he was like filled with guilt, grief, like he couldn't believe what he just did. Like he just let his emotions get the best of him, but he realized that way too late. So now talking a little bit more about just Oedipus Rex. So like I said, it's about Oedipus. He's a king, and he just wants to like do his role as being a king, protect his city, get like be respected and everything, help people. He put his city, like, you know, their well-being, like how do I say it, before his. He put their well-being before his, and people loved him, but he just went through some things. Like he had a prophecy that he didn't want to accept that was gonna happen. So you could say he ran off from it. Like he was like, nah, fuck this shit, this is not happening to me. Like, no, y'all bugging, this is not what's going, like, I'm not, this is not how I'm gonna like live my life. We're not gonna go by that. Like I know that's not gonna happen. But he has so many warnings, like that, you know, this could happen to you, this could happen to you. He never listened, and because of his emotional behavior towards it, it led him to, like, you know, making many errors. He committed suicide, but because the prophecy was that he was going to marry his own mother. So of course we could, like, you know, when we look at what he did, it's reasonable, because it's like, what the hell, like out of any type of prophecy, you're gonna tell me that I'm gonna end up marrying my mother? Like, he's not crazy. We know he's not crazy. He probably was crazy, but like the thought about it is like, yeah, I don't think he was like that crazy. Like, you know, what if someone told you like, oh, you're gonna like marry your mother? You know, so it was reasonable, his his actions. It was, but he could have, as a leader, he could have, you know, took another toll upon it. He could have done so much better, but he let his emotions get the best of him, and that's what we were seeing. That as a leader, he was failing to. He was failing to control his emotions and not let his emotions impact his decision makings, and that's what led him to failure. Not failure, but like just like errors in his life. So, like I said, because of all this that he was going through, he just thought that like he just failed as a king. He failed him and his people. Like he felt betrayed too, because it was like his own people telling him like this is gonna happen. Like, you know, so he did end up killing himself. He committed suicide. He like, how do you say it? Like he bulged his eyes out. Like he just, yeah, very much so. So it led him to, you know, kill himself. And yeah, as a leader, he could have done way better. But yeah, so that's for Oedipus Rex. That's what happened. And Now, in the story of Raisins in the Sun, it just talks about this African American like family, and the main character is Walter. So they, like I said, they grew up in poverty, and Walter has so much ambition and like he just like wants to succeed, get out of the ghetto, like I said, and he just wants the best for his family, and that's what he's looking for. He's looking for the best for his family, and as being the man of the house, he just wants to be able to make that happen. So what happened in the story was that they gave them a 10K, a 10 grand insurance check due to a family member that passed away. So they received a 10K insurance check. Now, because of this check coming into their hands, everybody's planning about like, oh, you know what, this would totally help me out with this, this, and that. Everybody's making plans with this money, right? They want a house, they want to move. The sister wants to become a doctor and continue studying to be independent, this, that, and the third, right? So much shit is happening about this check. Now, what Walter does was that just because he wanted to get out the ghetto, he entered into this business deal where he ended up losing a portion of the check. Now, what happened there? He made an ambitious and impulsive decision with this money. And because of not thinking or, you know, not taking into account what would happen, like what are the odds of this not succeeding, it failed. It failed for him. It didn't work out. That was just one of the errors that happened in the story. But this story does include racism because it is about an African American family in the 50s. So, you know, racism was still going on. And of course they were poor. So what Walter also did with the money was that he wanted to buy a house. He wanted to buy this house, but it was in a white neighborhood. So they also did encounter racism at this time. And they were just facing like resistance and like in this community that didn't want them there at all. So that was the struggle that they were also going through. So they wanted to leave poverty, and when they did want to, people were like not letting them succeed. But that didn't stop Walter. That did not stop Walter. Walter was like, you know what? I don't give a fuck what these white, you know, rednecks gotta say. I'm gonna continue because I want the best of my family, right? So like I said, he did end up losing, you know, part of the insurance money because of a failed business deal, right? A mistake that he did. And it just led him to like this crisis of responsibility and faith, you know, because they just lost half their money. So it does put them in this state like, what are we gonna do now? Like, we don't have those 10K that would like, you know, take us out, like what that would like have us living lavish. We don't got that no more. So it's like, what the hell are we gonna do now? But Walter did find himself. He felt that he redeemed himself when it got to the point where he was bribed to leave the white neighborhood. They told him to like, you know, that he should like leave the house. And what he did was that he rejected that. He rejected an offer to sell that new house that they just bought. Back, and it was like who wanted it back was the neighborhood. They were like, yeah, no, we don't want you here. But he rejected that, and that made him feel good. It made him stand on business. He felt like he stood on ground, and he wasn't gonna take no more racism or people to like limit their success. So, and he chose family. So that's what made him feel better about himself and about what happened with the money. But he said that, you know, as a leader, he just felt like as long as I still have my dignity and I'm choosing family over like money and what people want to like, you know, limit us to do, I feel like I'm good with that. And he stayed with that. And it showed resilience over his financial, like, you know, security that was going on. So I guess at the end it did kind of work out for Walter as a leader, because although he did, you know, have some decisions that weren't the best, at the end he still won with still having his family and standing up for them. So yeah. So I think that overall these books have really changed my perspective in seeing leaders and leadership, because like I said, at the end of the day, they're all humans. We all have flaws. We're not all perfect. And just because we have the title of being leader doesn't mean that we have our life put together. No, we all go through our own demons. We all have things that are going on in life. And sometimes we just let emotions get the best of us. And that's what we saw a lot that was happening in these books. So, yeah, because I would think that, you know, if someone had, well, I used to think, right, that if someone had the role and the title of being leader, was that they had their life together, like they know like how to handle like different types of situations, this, that, and the third. When that's really not the case. Leaders don't have it all together all the time. They don't always have it together, even though they want to be shown off as this respected person, this capable person. You know, at some point there's just some situations that happen where that isn't possible. But yeah, I would say that in those type of terms, that's how my POV of leadership has. All these books have changed like how I would perceive my role when I will start work. I am working currently, but I would say that it did change, because before working, I would, you know, characterize a boss as being, you know, someone mean or someone, you know, very strict, you know, as typical stereotypes for a boss, you know. But when I started working, you know, it's not really like that. You know, a boss just wants you, you know, for you to get the work done, of course, but they're not always gonna be on top. I mean, am I like personally, like my boss and my manager, they're not really like on me that much. It's probably because of the age. My manager is like young, so he's relatable. We could talk at work, and it just really like changed my perspective of seeing like how leaders would actually act in the workplace. And it's not even like that. Like my boss, we'd be like cracking jokes half the time, laughing, you know. And that just shows, you know, another trait of leadership, charisma. Like, if you're a leader that has charisma, people are gonna like want to be around you. People are gonna like, are gonna feel comfortable talking to you about anything. And I feel like that's like, the main thing that a leader should have: charisma, because that's what people, feel safer with people that are like that. And as a leader, it would most definitely like, have that impact with the people you're working with. So yeah, I think that was a key leadership skill that I've gained from the books: charisma. I have charisma, but I would continue using it because I feel like it is an iconic leadership skill to use. So yeah, this was my presentation. I chose those 3 books because I feel like they were the most interesting out of like all the course. I'm not sure if I was supposed to do all of them, but I chose 3. And so yeah, that was it.